So he worked with the MITS, that is Modi Institute of Technology and Science, a deemed university in the Rajasthan, and he worked with the Caresoft Incorporation, a US-based company, as a software engineer also. His current research areas are machine learning, data mining, computer vision, business analyst, and data warehousing. So on behalf of all the LNCT group, I welcome Dr. Vivek Tiwari in this third session. The session is yours, sir. I'm making you the co-host so that you can share whatever you want to share easily.
Thank you for your brief introduction. And first, let me check. Yeah, I'm not able to share right now all the things.
I'm stop sharing. Then you can share easily.
Sure.
Now, sir, you can share the things.
Sure. Okay. So thank you very much for the brief introduction, and I welcome you all the participants in the last session of the day 4 in this 5-day long FDP. Again, the congratulations to all the organizers, LNCT group, and a special thanks to Atal for providing all the fund for conducting this workshop. And really, it is a commendable job. And everyone is here to really a part of having such kind of commendable comments. So I will continue my session, and the earlier session I have taken where I have discussed about the supervised learning. So if you see, I purposefully have taken the 2 lecture. The 1 lecture I have devoted for the supervised learning, and the next lecture, the current lecture, I have planned for the unsupervised learning. So I have designed my 2 sessions in such a way that all the participants who are conducting throughout the India have exposures to in the both kind of algorithms, how fundamentally the algorithms of supervised and unsupervised algorithms are different to each other. What are the characteristics that make these discriminations between 2 categories of algorithms under the machine learning? And in the last lecture, we have demonstrated and we have understood the linear regression, and we have seen the whole implementation by using R for predicting the medical expenses of a family or a human. Similarly, in the unsupervised learning, we are going to discuss about the clustering. Okay, what is supervised learning? What is unsupervised learning? I have covered in the earlier lecture, so I will not go in much detail about what is unsupervised. For brief introductions, unsupervised learning, there is nothing to supervise. And supervised learning, there is something that supervise your training process, supervise your learning process. Like a PhD, MTech, there is a supervisor, there is a guide. The responsibility of the supervisor is to see whatever you are working is correct or not. So in terms of data set, in terms of data science, who is going to decide the learning and the outcome through the algorithm is correct or not? The answer is lies within the data set. If the data set contains the output variable or target variable, you need to match your prediction with the target variable. If match, okay, otherwise not okay. So the target variable is a supervisor. So the target variable is missing in the unsupervised learning. So I will again take and explain what is clustering. Fundamentally, I will discuss under the clustering, we will go to see the k-means clustering, its workings, and what mathematically the algorithm works. Then again, we'll take the R platform. I will consider some data set that is appropriate data set and will demonstrate how to implement it, how the output of clustering is different from the supervised clustering or supervised learning. So that is a fundamental and objective of the today's discussion. Starting with the clustering. Clustering is unsupervised descriptive data analytics. So I hope since it is the second last day of the FDP, so you might have the proper understanding about the descriptive or predictive kind of things. Predictive means you are going to make a prediction. So it is a part of supervised learning. Unsupervised learning, we don't predict. We only describe the data and try to understand the data. We try to discover the pattern hidden in the historical data to see something happen. Maybe suddenly you start observing the profit in the business or you are losing in the business. So something happened. You want to know why it is happened. So you need to dig down into the data and try to see the pattern, artifact, and the relationship among the features in the data set having. So we need to describe the data. That's why it is a descriptive data analytics. Any kind of unsupervised learning, maybe a priori, maybe FP growth, maybe principal component analysis, or whatever you want or you have, it all are descriptive data analytics. So the word itself I have highlighted in the different color, self-explanatory, and you can easily connect yourself. There are many definitions of the supervised learning, unsupervised learning, clustering, and I am the person don't say to go with the definitions, go with the understanding. So this is the simplest explanation or representation of the clustering I have found in the Google and going to read for you. So clustering is a task of dividing the population or the data point. Population means data set. If you go to the statistics, population is different, data set is different, samples are different. So in that detailed level of discussion I am not going to make. Understand, for a simplicity, you see the population or sample or data set are same. So clustering is a process where you have given the data set and you need to divide the data set into the number of group. These number of group we call the cluster, and the data item within a group are more similar to each other than the data items that belong to the another group. So clustering is dividing the data into the group. That is okay, very simple. But what is the objective of clustering? Objective of clustering is that whatever the cluster you will get, within the cluster, whatever the data items are there, they share the same property. And they are much different to the data items that are not part of their own clusters. Throughout the session, we understand what is the meaning of sharing the responsibility, how it is possible to find out the similar data and put into the one cluster. So that is the process of algorithms we will cover one by one. So clustering is a cluster. If you talk about the cluster is an output of clustering. So a cluster is a group of object that's a group of data that's belong to the same category or same cluster or share the same properties. So while we do the cluster analysis, we first partition the data into the group based on their similarity and then assign the label on the group. So the clustering output is what? Clustering also create a feature. How? Through the example we'll try to demonstrate. Suppose the data set is a black color points or a data set is given to you. Maybe that data set is the DMART data, big data, or whatever the data set you have. So what happened? Suppose you feed that data to the algorithms, and algorithm have divided that data into the two group. What group? This blue color cluster and the red color cluster. Two clusters are there. Okay, so there may be a number of clusters. So what happened once you analyze the property, you came to know all those data items or customers are the part of blue color cluster who normally purchase the grocery item. That's why we have given the new name, grocery item lover. And the red color cluster on the other hands are the set of customers that normally visit the mart, and they normally purchase the electronics item. So that are electronics item lover. So based on the property they share, we can label it. It is not possible in the supervised learning at all. Supervised learning never generate the new knowledge. Clustering generate the new knowledge. So grocery item lover, electronics item lovers are the new knowledge. You can use that feature for the further classification. So it's happened in many time. You might have, if you have done MTech and PhD, you have seen sometime you apply the clustering, create a new feature, make it the part of data set as a new feature, then feed the data set for any classification algorithm. So it normally happen. So one of the misconceptions, most of the time when I discuss with the student, they have in the clustering we physically divide the data, because in every where in the literature it talk about it is a process of dividing the data. No, at all. Clustering never divide the data physically at all. Then what happened? Left hand side you see the data set is given, suppose, and the right hand side is the output of clustering, and they have a three cluster, a green color cluster or blue color cluster or the red color cluster. So what happened over here? You see, we are not moving the data at all. You see the corresponding or mutual distance among the data points are intact. Distribution is intact. We are not moving data point at all. You might have observed it. So what actually we are doing in the clustering? That is important to understand, and that is a really uh, very interesting. So what happens? Suppose same particular data set is given to you. Data set means suppose CSV file or Excel file, you can assume.